Yes, good morning La Trinidad, good morning Benguet, and good morning to our online viewers here at Taraki TV. So we're starting a new series this morning. Itanong mo kay Attorney, and we'll do it in the morning to also become sort of like a morning show. And interestingly, this month we celebrate the Women's Month in the Philippines. Internationally, we celebrate the Women's Day every March 8th. So we had various celebrations around the country no Friday to commemorate the role of women in our society, the role of women in our community. And for this morning's discussion, we will delve on various issues that surround women. Most specifically, this morning we will discuss one relevant law that relates to women laws and welfare. But before we proceed, I'd like to greet all our viewers. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. And we are live here in La Trinidad, where we are currently celebrating the Strawberry Festival. So we invite everyone to come and watch the series of events for the Strawberry Festival. Just last Sunday, we had the pre-pageant activities of the Mr. and Miss La Trinidad, and watch out for the other upcoming activities. I think this week we will have the Grand Street Parade of the Strawberry Festival. We will feature festival dances from the province of Benguet, and also our barangays will be coming up with their different floats that depicts the different agro in tourism products of the municipality of La Trinidad. So keep on liking, keep on sharing. If you have questions, anything related to anything under the sun, you may comment them down below, and we will try to answer them mamaya. So last recap, last week, last Thursday, we answered a query on is it correct to forcefully cut the hair of students because they do not adhere to the haircut policy of the school or the Department of Education, or makon ko na nga kultap mabalin pa iba ti ag kultap itatanga panahon. And we went through several issuances of the Department of Education, and it seems that it is no longer allowed actually nga agkultap, because the DepEd has already relaxed several of its policies when it comes to enforcing the mandatory nga haircut, because DepEd is now recognizing the right of children or right of kids to express themselves, and part of this expression is to choose whatever hairstyle that they want to wear, that they want to do. And in that specific episode that we posted on Facebook, that we received a comment, I think the comment goes along the line as to questioning anya kanumat iti mabalin nga ikaso iti parent, tama ba manong Kurt nga apan sumugsugod di school, tama, correct ba yun? I can't remember exactly the tenor of the question, but then of course in all human conduct, kanay tayo nung makikita ijay TV J-drama inya nga yung linya na walang inaapakang tao. Well, in all human conduct, no, we are free to express ourselves, we are free to express our anger, we are free to express our emotions, no, as long as we do not trample upon the rights of others. And so I think, no, up to a certain degree, it is okay to for a parent, no, to go to school and complain and address, no, redress their grievances. That to a certain degree, that is okay, as long as the manner by which the parent complains does not demean other person, no, or does not attack the the person of another person, no. I meant to say was hanga physical, no? So awan iti bilugbog, awan iti pinungot, awan met lang iti panagibaga, iti demeaning words against another person. If you're a parent and you want to seek redress, no, in a school, you are free to do so as long as you do not disrespect another person. And I think, no, educational institutions should not be onion skinned when it comes to things like this. You should expect, no, that a teacher in a school setting is the second parent of a child, and so you assume parental responsibility, including accountability for the behavior of children under your care. And so if something goes wrong inside the classroom, you are accountable to their biological parents. And so for today's episode, let's discuss one of relevant laws that cover, no, that touch upon women welfare as part of our commitment of advocating for women's rights and welfare in line with this month's Women's Month commemoration. Okay, how are our friends over on Facebook? We have been receiving private comments and messages. Actually, we will try to get back on your comments, but for now we will go on discussing Republic Act 9262, or this is the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act. So practically a lot of us have heard of this law before, no. Matagal na rin naman itong in place, and we've already learned of some relatives, friends who were either victims of this law or victims of acts that are punishable under this law, or some are actually perpetrators, no. RA 9262, or most commonly referred to as the anti-VAUC, no. No, kung nga VAUC, they pertain to the coverage of RA 9262. Now, RA 9262, before bago natin himayin, no, yung highlights of the RA 9262, we have to keep in mind that for RA 9262 to come into play, it is important that to establish one thing between the perpetrator and the victim, no. Perpetrator is we refer to it as the suspect, or the nangdangran iti may nga tao. We have to establish the concept, or we first have to establish the element of relationship. For RA 9262 to be activated in a certain situation, there has to be the element of relationship, meaning the perpetrator and the victim has to have a relations with each other. They could either be husband and wife, they could either be boyfriends or girlfriends, no. They could either be in a situationship, whichever, basta there has to be a relationship. The law also covers past relationships, meaning they can either be former husband and wives, they could either be annulled, they could either be separated in fact, or hindi pa sila naanal, but ti agasawa nga nagsinan iti pagyanan, pagtaangan, anything that happens as any violence that happens as between them may be under the coverage of the law. Also, previous girlfriends and boyfriends, no, it is still within the coverage of the law. If an act of violence happens between mag-ex, no, boyfriends or girlfriends, papasok pa rin siya under the coverage of 9262. Now what are the highlights, no, key features of RA 9262? RA 9262 highlights four kinds of violence, no, physical violence, emotional violence, sexual violence, and psychological violence. This law presupposes nga da iti upat nga klase iti violence that happens in a relationship, no. as between two persons who are in a relationship who were formerly in a relationship. Let's dig into first the first kind of violence, or the physical violence. Physical violence refers to bodily or physical harm, no? Physical, eh. So, ada ti physical nga violence. At no, when we say physical, ada iti overt manifestation, iti physical act. Such as, well, physically attacking, no, the victim. For example, a perpetrator dinanog na iti babae, sinipat na iti babae, that is considered a physical violence. What else are the other overt acts of physical violence? No, nadangran ka in any way, in any means, no? Either using a person's hands or nagusar iso na iti instrument, blunt object to harm or hit you, no? That is covered under physical violence. The second kind of violence contemplated under the law is sexual violence, no? Sexual violence, to begin with, sex is a pleasurable thing that is supposed to be enjoyed by a couple, no, by partners, and unfortunately it is also through this pleasurable thing where the law recognizes that violence may happen. And so what are the kinds of sexual violence, no? The law dictates some like treating a woman or her child as a sex object, and sexually suggestive remarks. If your partner ada ti fetish di partner mo niya, and dagiti fetish dito partner mo are odd, weird, and he or your partner treats you as a sexual object, that is already considered as sexual violence. If your partner forces you to watch obscene materials, so for example, bagay di partner mo nga agbuya ta iti porn niya, your partner forces you to watch porn for you daw to learn sex positions, or for you to learn other ways to spice up your marriage, or forcing your child to do indecent acts, no, these are considered as sexual violence under the law. If your husband or your partner forces you to engage in any sexual activity by force, threat, or physical harm or coercion. For example, madimot nga ag sex kayo. Tanaban-banog ka, but your husband forces you, no, physically. Iginapos ka niya, although you are already married. Pero when your husband forces you to have sexual intercourse with him, even if you refuse, that is sexual violence, and that is well within the contemplation of what we call marital rape. And so yes, rape may happen in a marital relationship because in any sexual activity, consent has to be present, meaning both parties has to say yes to sex. And so if one party refuses, even if they're already married, the other party has nothing, awanti maramida na. Even if agasawa kayo, no, mabalin nga, hada ka mabalin nga pilitan. No pinilit da ka, pwede kanyang trineten. Isinaksi ka, no hanta nga ag-sex. Kunana, or dinanog da ka, that is well within the contemplation of marital rape. Also, ada ti instances where your husband, no, forces you to live in a house where the husband also plainly simple, no, ada iti kabit ni asawa minya ket finors da kayo nga agyan iti may nga balay sika nga legal wife, and the kabit ket you are forced to sleep together in one home, and that is well within the coverage of sexual violence. Or if your partner or your husband prostitutes you, nagbalin iso na nga mamasang no, that is well within the contemplation of sexual violence under RA 9262. Ayan. Now we move on to the third kind of violence, or psychological violence. Ito, medyo aware naman na tayo, no, on what kung ano yung concept ng psychological violence. Di pandemic ket adu iti nag-cry nga their mental health is at stake or unstable. And so we were already given the idea of what mental health is. And so under the law, the law recognizes nga in a relationship there could be psychological violence. And what are these, no? These are acts causing mental or emotional suffering such as intimidation, harassment, stalking, damage to property, public ridicule or humiliation, repeated verbal abuse, and marital infidelity. So what are the examples, no? No hanga na imas tilutom kat kanayon da ka nga ibabain nila kay mo, tapos ibabain na kapay ijay sangon ni manugang mo ta mong nga mga gluto, no, that can be considered psychological violence. Mabalin nga inaramid na once or kanayon nang aramidon, it doesn't matter, that is well within the coverage of psychological violence. In the application of RA 9262, the act of violence may either be only done once or series of acts. So mabalin nga one time inaramid na lang, violence against women and children na yon. No paulit-ulit, well, that is violence against women and their children. Iso nga no si kakat nagbalin nga biktima iti abuse or violence, han nga mabalin nga ibaga jay partner mo nga nabigla lang iso nga sinimpat da ka. No, even one instance pwede kang mag-file for violation of RA 9262. What else, no? Damage to property, gaputa kayat da ka nga mental torture kat dadaulan na dagigamit mo, no? For example, meron kayong dati collection mo ti Tupperware. Mahal yun, di ba? Brinake na tapno masaktan itirik nam, no, or dagi platum korel nangingina dagi collection mo ti korel kat dinadaol na just to give you mental suffering, just to cause mental suffering, that is psychological violence. Humiliation, kanahin da ka nga ibabain ni asawam, hanang kayat jay itsuram, ibabain da ka in public, no, that is psychological violence. Repeated verbal abuse, everyday da ka nga bulbulshitan ni asawam, minumura ka ng asawa mo or ng partner mo, ng boyfriend mo, that is repeated verbal abuse. And sabi dito, marital infidelity. So, no ni asawam, kat nangabilang bahay, nagbirok iti daduma, kat dati kabit ni asawam, and you discovered nga hindi lang pala ikaw ang babae sa buhay ng asawa mo, that is marital infidelity. That is considered psychological violence. Why? Because of the resulting effect of marital infidelity. Anya ba iti usual nga panpanunutan iti babae no agkabit ni asawa na, di ba? Ito na yung lagi nating napapanood, no? Sasabihin ni babae, pangit ba ako? Kapalit-palit ba ako? No? So, the act of marital infidelity causes a woman, no, to question herself, to question her value as a spouse, no, as an individual, and this is psychological violence on the part of the woman. And so if that happens to you, then you can file a case for violation of RA 9262. What else, no? Acts causing the victim to witness the physical, sexual, or psychological abuse of a family member. For example, dayti anak mo kat pirmi nga bautan nila kay mo niya, mawaswas di ay handle iti sagad ti sobra nga panang babaot na, no, kat sika kat masaksaktan tirik ng hamang buyboy iti panang babaot iti anak mo or other family members, no? That is psychological violence. Acts causing the victim to witness abusive injury to pets. So for example, dati pet dog or pet cat, kat bukulan nila kay mo, babautan nila kay mo, jay pet yung dog or cat, and the motivation behind is to hurt your feelings, no, that is psychological violence. Another act of psychological violence is unlawful deprivation of the right to custody and or visitation of common children, no. There are cases where dati husband and wife nagsinadan kat dati anak da, and usually in the arrangements nga kastoy kat dagiubing aging inalis ti pagyanan, either kani nanang da or kani tatang da, or there are cases where ada iti ag partners, no, they are not married but they have kids usually, and they choose to co-parent, no, because as between the relationship as a man and a woman, handan nga kayat nga balin nga girlfriend or boyfriend, but they wish to be co-parent, no. There are instances when one of the parent refuses the other parent to visit the child, no, And if you are the partner, if you no si kadi babae kathan niya kayat nga ipakita nila kay mo dagi anak yo kanya no, unlawfully walang rason, that is unlawful deprivation of your right to custody and or visitation. Pasok yun no sa konsepto ng psychological violence. And so before we move to the last kind of violence or economic violence, we'll go on a short break, and if you have questions, you may type them below or you can DM me for those who are for those whom I am friends on Facebook. You send me your message and we'll try to go over them after we discuss the last kind of violence. So please don't go away. We'll be back after a short break. right, we are back to discussing the provisions, the highlights of RA 9262 or the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children. So before we went on a break, we talked about the three kinds of violence as contemplated within the law: physical, sexual, and psychological. And so at this time, no, as we resume, we will talk about economic violence. So ito, of course, we talk about money, no? And the law enumerate several of the kinds of economic violence that may be committed by a partner against another in a relationship. Number one, acts that make a woman financially dependent. So, paano ito? Kung yung asawa mo ay gumagawa ng mga bagay para ikaw ay maging totally dependent on him economically, para hindi mo siya iwan eventually, no? That is considered economic violence. For example, marami nito sa pelikula dinidisempower ng asawang lalaki yung babae para talagang kakapit lang yung babae doon sa kanyang asawang lalaki para sa material needs, no? Kung ikaw ay umabot na sa puntong ultimo pambili mo ng napkin ay hinihingi mo sa asawa mo, I think you are in a situation that might be pasok doon sa sinasabi ng batas that your husband has been doing acts that make you financially dependent upon him. Second is preventing the victim from engaging in any legitimate profession, occupation, business, or activity. So for example, nung kinasal kayo, sabi ng asawa mo, Han, ngayong mag-asawa na tayo, hindi mo na kailangang magtrabaho kasi ako na ang bubuhay sa'yo. Ikaw naman, no, mula nung bata ka pa gusto mo talagang maging teacher. That's why you pursued your education, your tertiary education. You even passed the professional licensure exam for teachers, no? And nag-apply ka pa nga. Pero nung nag-asawa na kayo, ayaw ng asawa mo na magturo ka. At ang rason lang ng asawa mo kung bakit ayaw kanyang magturo dahil gusto ka lang niyang nasa bahay, no? Gusto niya pag umalis siya ng bahay sa umaga, papasok ng work, ikaw ang huli niyang makikita, at pag uwi sa hapon, ikaw ang una niyang makikita ng, any lawful reason. That is a violation of your rights, no? That's why it is within the contemplation of economic violence, because a person, no, has a right to pursue a vocation, to pursue a profession, to pursue an occupation or business, no, or any activity. Hindi pwedeng i-curtail yun dahil lang mag-asawa na kayo, no. So nag-asawa ka lang pero you did not surrender all your rights to your husband, no. When you get married, diba, you choose to be with this person because you want to pursue the next part of your life, no, the next years of your life, building your life with another person. But if it seems that when you get married, you're no longer building anything for yourself and for you and your partner, I think there's something wrong with that kind of marriage. But I don't know, that's just me. I'm not yet married. A next kind of economic violence is deprivation or threat of deprivation of financial resources and the right to use of the conjugal community or commonly owned property. Halimbawa, no, nag-asawa na kayo, ayaw namang ipagamit sa'yo ng asawa mo yung mga conjugal properties ninyo without any reason, or commonly owned property. For example, bumili kayong dalawa ng sasakyan, parehas naman kayong marunong mag-drive, ayaw ipagamit ng asawa mo yung kotse sa'yo for no reasons whatsoever, hindi naman niya explain sa'yo kung bakit. That is economic violence. Third is destroying household property. So nabanggit natin to kanina, no. Psychological, meron din siya, pasok din siya as an economic violence. Why? Pag sinira niya yung collection mo ng korel, anong ginamit mo dito? Anong ginamit mo para bilhin yung korel? Pera, no? Pwedeng ipon mo o pwedeng pera yung dalawa, pero sinisira niya, no, thereby losing its monetary value. That is economic violence. Kung sinisira niya yung mga gamit sa bahay para saktan ka niya, no, para sirain, no, o walain yung value ng property na yun, that is economic violence. Also, no, one act that may constitute economic violence is controlling the victim's own money or property, or solely controlling the conjugal money or property. May joke ito pag ang asawang babae daw hawak-hawak niya yung ATM ng asawa niya lalaki, okay lang yun. That is wise financial management of the family's money, no? But if ang asawang lalaki ay hinawakan niya yung ATM ng asawang babae, that is economic violence, no? No naman. What the law contemplates is controlling, no? If your husband, no, controls the way that you spend your own money, no, or property, for example, sumasahod ka naman dahil may trabaho ka, yung asawa mong lalaki ang nagdidikta kung paano mo to gastusin, that is economic violence. Or no, yung conjugal, nung nag-asawa kayong dalawa, both kayo working, nung nag-asawa na kayo, you decided na yung sahod ninyo pupunta sa isang fund, no, conjugal fund or joint account, and suddenly, no, yung asawa mo lang ang nagde-decide kung saan ginagastos yung pooled na pera nyong dalawa. Sabi ng batas, that is economic violence. So, these are the kinds of violence that when it happens in a relationship between a husband or a wife, or between a boyfriend and girlfriend, or between a former husband and wife, or between a former husband and girlfriend, mag-ex na sila. And if the acts that I've enumerated happened, no, then ibig sabihin, there may exist a violation of RA 9262. Now, what happens if you're a victim, no? What if dun sa mga binanggit ko, meron kang may nangyari sa iyo dun sa isa sa mga binanggit ko, no? If you think that you are the victim, no, what should you do? Well, the first thing that you should do ay pumunta sa kapitbahay at i-chismis, no? Kidding aside, no? Joke lang. What you do, meron na tayong institutional mechanisms that respond to victims of anti-VAUSI, no? Anti-violence against women and their children. The first institutional mechanism that you can run to is the Women and Children's Protection Desk sa Philippine National Police. Ito yung tinatawag nilang WCPD. Sa WCPD, merong babaeng pulis na naka-assign na tatanggap ng iyong mga reklamo. And you can go there anytime. Ang mga WCPD are located sa police stations, no? So you can go there anytime and you can go there and tell your story, tell your version of your story. At i-record ito ng police. And then what happens after, yung police na yung mag-assist sa'yo. If malayo ka naman sa police station, you can go to the barangay hall. Meron na tayong VAUSI desk, no? Meron tayong mga barangay officials who are trained to receive complaints for violation of this law. And ang gagawin naman nila ay i-refer nila ito sa kinauukulan. Kung ikaw naman ay, kung sa tingin mo naman ay you have been gravely abused, no, by your partner, and medyo meron ka pang takot, no, na pumunta sa isang police authority, you can go visit the office of the Social Welfare and Development Office. Initially, they can give you a counseling or debriefing session, no, before they process the complaint part of your complaint, no. Sa hindi madali mag-file, no, ng kaso against a perpetrator kung ang basis natin is itong RA 9262. Hindi siya madali because when you file a case, of course you have to tell your version of your story. And when you do that, you have to relive, no, you have to remember, and you have to tell it to another person. So it's sort of like reliving the horrors of abuse that you have encountered, no? The horrors of violence that you have felt and encountered for how many days, for how many years, weeks, no? Kasi yung iba, they have been victims of cycle of abuse and violence, and nasanay na lang sila, and then one day they snapped and they realize, oh, this is no longer normal, this is no longer healthy, no? And then they go and file a complaint. But when they do go and file a complaint, yun nga, they have to retell the accounts of this abuse and violence, and hindi yun madaling gawin, hindi yun madaling gawin. And so, marami naman tayong mga support group. Number one na talaga rito ay yung mga social workers natin in the local Social Welfare and Development Office. And sila yung tutulong sa'yo, gagabay sa'yo all along the step of the way. At syempre, hindi mabilis yung pagpo-prosecute ng mga ganitong kaso. hindi mabilis yung resolution ng mga ganitong mga kaso. So it is also mentally challenging for a victim to come forward, and even actually yung for a person to say that I am a victim of violence is also not easy, is also not the easiest thing to say and do. The the first big step is to really say that and recognize and acknowledge that you are a victim of abuse and violence. And so from that, you go to filing a case, from filing a mental fortitude to go through that harrowing experience. But in the end, you are doing it not only for you, but also you are doing it for the other women out there who have become victim of violence, that they're also looking for that strong person, no, to hold on to, and maybe you are what they are waiting for also bago sila mag-step out and say, I am a victim of violence and this violence stops now. Ayan, of course, ma- marami pa, no? Marami pa tayong pwedeng pag-usapan tungkol dito sa VAUSI, but for now, we'll just end at the highlights of the law and what can you do if you are the victim. If you are the perpetrator naman, I think it you need, if you think that you have caused violence, no? If you did violence against your partner, you have to be self-aware of what you are doing and what you have done, and you have to be aware of the consequences of your action. And habang maaga pa lang, it is healthy for you to consciously choose to be less violent against your partner. Usually, no, these kinds of violence are rooted upon conflicts, no, misunderstanding between two persons who are in a relationship. The key has always been communication, no? The key has always been talking about your problems. The key has always been to really have the courage to go to your partner and tell them what you feel, and tell them ano yung nararamdaman mo, i-communicate mo dun sa partner mo. And also, do not be afraid of listening to what your partner also thinks about the misunderstanding, about the conflict. And in communicating more openly, more clearly with your partner, you get to avoid escalating problems and conflicts that may reach to level where violence is already part of solving that problem. Ayan, we'll go on another break, and when we come back, we go on a discussion on the Expanded Solo Parents Welfare Act. This is one of the newest law within the social protection framework sphere, and I'm sure marami ring makaka-relate dito sa bagong provisions at benefits ng Expanded Solo Parents Act. So, continue commenting your thoughts, your insights, your questions, and towards the end of our show, we'll go through them one by one. So, we'll go on a break. We'll be back after a few. See you in a while. Alright, welcome back to our Taraki TV Tuesday morning show. Ayan, before we went on a break, no, I mentioned we will delve a bit into the newest law in the social protection sphere. Ito yung Expanded Solo Parents Act. Ayan. Why is it expanded? Because the first law was passed in the year 2000. So after 22 years, nagkaroon siya ng amendment which expanded the coverage of the law. So, no, maraming sectors sa society, no, and as individuals, as human beings, we go through our phases where we become part of various sectors. Of course, when we are born, no, nung tayo pinanganak, we automatically become part of the children's sector. And as we go into our youth years, we become part of the youth sector. Pag tumanda tayo and we reach the age of 60, no, we become part of the solo parent sector. But no, as our society continues to evolve along with time, no, and along with progress, several sectors emerge, no, and these sectors since due to their vulnerability, they are protected by various policies and legislation. And one of these vulnerable sector that our law recognizes is the solo parent sector, no. That's why nilegislate nung year 2000 yung Solo Parents Act. Recognizing na marami pang mga rights ng solo parents hindi covered ng unang batas, kaya 22 years after ipinasa yung amendment to the law, which is the ESPA or the Expanded Solo Parents Act. This was passed in June of 2022. So this was made into law. So magwa 1 year, almost 1 year na rin yung implementation nito, and maraming bagong provisions yung law, no. The highlight of the law is really kasi it used the word expanded, eh. Bakit kaya siya expanded? Now let's answer the question. How did it expand? It expanded in terms of adding categories to solo parents. Now there are 9 categories of solo parents, no, and we'll just enumerate them one by one. First is, of course, ang unang category ng solo parent according to the law is a parent yung namatayan ng asawa. So, naging byuda, no? Death of his or her spouse. For you to become a solo parent, no, it has to be important to establish 2 things, no? A parent who provides solo parental care and support to a child. Ibig sabihin, for one person to become a solo parent, there has to be a child, no? Hindi pwedeng solo parent ka lang dahil feel mo lang. Kailangan meron kang bata, may minor child who depends on you for parental care and support. And dapat yung parent is solo, meaning ikaw lang yung nagbibigay ng parental care and support to a child. Parental care and support encompasses everything, no, from physical, mental, most importantly financial. kung merong ibang tao na nagbibigay ng sustento sa anak mo, hindi ka napapasok sa konsepto ng solo parent. So, hindi porket meron kang minor child under your care, pero yung relatives mo naman nagbibigay ng sustento o ng ayuda sa inyo, hindi ka pa rin pasok sa konsepto ng solo parent. So, importante yon. Sole parental care and support is being exercised by you, the solo parent. So, the first kind of solo parent contemplated under the law is yung namatayan ng asawa. Namatay na yung asawa mo, yung parental care and support ay naiwan na lang sa'yo. Walang ibang tumutulong sa'yo. So, pasok na pasok ka as a solo parent. The second kind of solo parent naman is, here comes a situation where a woman, no, is a victim of rape. Na-rape siya, nabuntis. Nung nabuntis, nanganak, at inalagaan niya yung kanyang anak, no, yung bata as a result of rape, isa na siyang solo parent. The third kind of a solo parent ay goes into this kind of situation. Mag-asawa kayo, yung asawa mo nakulong. At nakulong siya for at least 3 months, no? So, nasa jail siya, nasa piitan for at least 3 months. Yung asawa niya, ikaw na asawa niya na nandito sa labas ng kulungan na kung kanino naiwan ang pag-aalaga doon sa mga anak, ay isa ng considered na solo parent. So, yun yung pangatlo. Pang-apat, kung yung asawa mo ay physically incapacitated, for example, buhay pa naman yung asawa mo, kaso na bedridden na siya, baldado na siya, dahil sa sakit, dahil sa karamdaman, at dahil hindi na siya makapagbigay ng at sa'yo, na asawa niya, ikaw ngayon ay pwede nang maging isang solo parent. The law also contemplates when your husband is mentally or your partner is mentally incapacitated. Halimbawa, hindi na siya makapagtrabaho dahil meron siyang mental sickness or illness. At yung kanyang mental illness or sickness, no, hinders him or her from working. Ayan, ikaw na asawa na normal ang pag-iisip ay within the contemplation of a solo parent. Ang next na category naman ng solo parent ay, for example, no, you are legally separated, meaning you went to court at you both applied for legal separation and the court granted it, at ikaw yung asawa kung saan binigay ng court yung custody ng anak, no, then you can or you are considered a solo parent. Bakit kailangan mag-apply ng legal separation? Because under the civil code, once you get married, you have to live together in one house. And pag gusto nyo nang maghiwalay ng tirahan pero ayaw nyong i-sever yung marital bond, gusto nyo lang ay magkaroon kayo ng legal na lisensya para maghiwalay ng bahay, the court has this remedy called legal separation. What if de facto, hindi kayo pumunta sa court pero in truth and in fact, naghiwalay na kayo? Pag naghiwalay na kayo for at least 6 months, yung partner, yung parent, kung nasaan napunta yung custody ng mga bata, siya yung magiging considered as solo parent. Next naman, wala tayong divorce sa Pilipinas, pero meron tayong konsepto ng annulment. Pag kayong mag-asawa, you went to court and you applied for annulment and the court granted the decree, no? They issued the decree of nullity of marriage, at yung partner or yung asawa, kung kanino binigay yung parental care, sa custody ng mga bata, pwede na siyang mag-apply as a solo parent. Meron din tayo yung abandonment, no? Kung iniwan na kayo ng asawa mo for at least 6 months, abandonment, meaning hindi nyo na alam kung saan pumunta yung asawa mo, nangapit bayan, no? At hindi na siya mahanap, total abandonment. At this has happened for at least 6 months, at ikaw na asawang nandito, nasa iyo na iwan yung pag-aalaga sa mga anak ninyo, ikaw ay isa ng solo parent. Another category, no, ng solo parent is a pregnant woman, no? Buntis ka pa lang, iniwan ka na ng boyfriend mo, iniwan ka na ng asawa mo, pwede ka nang mag-apply as a solo parent, no? Sabi ng batas, a pregnant woman who provides sole parental care and support for her unborn child or children is already considered a solo parent. So, ito yung bago, no, na classification or kind ng solo parent na idinagdag ng bagong batas. Now, meron pa tayong iba't ibang klase, no, yung what if, no, yung asawa mo ay nagtrabaho na abroad, and yung trabaho niya naman doon, isa na siyang OFW, pero ang kanyang trabaho low, no, or semi-skilled, or yung sahod niya below minimum wage, at hindi siya sapat para tustusan yung pangangailangan ninyo ng mga bata na naiwan sa Pilipinas, pwede kang mag-apply as a solo parent. Meron din yung mga cases where ikaw ay hindi pa kayo mag-boyfriend girlfriend kayo, nabuntis ka na babae, at iniwan ka ng boyfriend mo, hindi na kayo nagpakasal, pero ikaw na babae, no, gusto mo pa ring ipagpatuloy na itaguyod yung buhay ng anak mo, no, pasok na pasok, because the law covers an unmarried mother or father who keeps and rears his or her child or children. Papasok din na solo parent ang isang legal guardian, no, o isang foster parent na nagpo-provide ng parental care and support to a child. Meron kasi tayong mga instances where may mga tito o tita na walang mga anak, no, at hindi na nakapangasawa, tapos sa kanila ibinigay yung parental care and support ng mga bata, ng mga anak ng kanilang mga kapatid o kamag-anak, pwede pa rin silang papasok na solo parent. So hindi kailangan biological na anak mo, no. Pwede rin na kung ikaw ay legal guardian o pinaalaga, no, pina-foster sa'yo, pwede ka rin mag-apply as a solo parent. The law also, no, acknowledges any relative within the fourth civil degree of consanguinity or affinity of the parent or legal guardian whose death or disappearance, absent or abandonment of the child for at least 6 months led to the said relative assuming sole parental care. So dagito jay tagibi inya inbati da dagi ubing kanyam, ayan, papasok ka na solo parent. So marami na po tayong kind, no, or classification ng solo parent contemplated under the law. And of course, the law also gives benefits, no, grants benefits to solo parents, no. Among these benefits is that kung ikaw ay isang solo parent, ikaw ay isang employed sa isang formal employment, you are given by law 7 days parental solo parents leave, no. If you have been working, I think for at least 6 months, pwede ka nang mag-apply ng solo parental leave. The law also mandates local government units to give solo parent subsidy in the amount of 1,000 pesos per month for solo parents who belong to the poor, no, or to those who are earning minimum wage. So pwede kayong mag-apply for the subsidy at bibigyan kayo ng ayuda ng gobyerno ng lokal na pamahalaan ng 1,000 per month. But this is subject to the availability of fund ng isang local government unit. So if you want to avail or inquire, no, kung paano nyo ito i-avail, you should go to your local social welfare and development office. At sila ang magtuturo sa inyo kung paano kayo makaka-avail at kung sino-sino pa ba yung mga pasok sa ayuda na ito. So marami pa tayong pwedeng pag-usapan about solo parents, but we leave it to our next episode. Meanwhile, we go back to the different, no, comments that we have received sa ating chat box at sa ating inbox, no. One of the questions that we received kanina, no, is that what if wala daw support, no, what would that constitute violence? Yes naman, pag walang support, I think this pertains to ano na yung term doon, Manong Kurt, sustento. Yan, paano kung yung partner mo, yung asawa mo ay hindi nagbibigay ng sustento, no, sa mga bata. Yan, sa usaping sustento naman, no, there are many ways on how you can enforce sustento. Of course, ang general rule dyan, no, ang dalawang tao, for example, no, nanay at tatay na may anak, obligadong magbigay ng sustento sa kanilang anak. So, ang pagsusustento po ay joint responsibility ng asawang babae at asawang lalaki. Ngayon po, pag naghiwalay, no, ang babae at lalaki, mag-asawa man sila o hindi, pag naghiwalay na po sila, obligado po silang magbigay ng sustento doon sa bata. Kung ang bata ay nasa babae, yung lalaki magbibigay siya ng sustento through the mother of the child. Kung ang mga bata naman ay nasa poder ng lalaki, ang babae ay obligadong magbigay ng sustento sa mga bata through the father. Ngayon, ang usaping sustento, gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, ay shared responsibility. Ibig sabihin, both the husband and the wife. Ngayon, how do we come up with the amount of sustento? Ayan, the general rule, no, the easiest way to go is that, of course, we file for a petition, no, for support sa korte. At sa korte, through the judge will determine how much, no, at how does the judge arrive, no, at how much the sustento should be. Of course, if a factor in natin ito, no, yung magkano ba ang kinakain ng mga bata, magkano ba yung cost ng pagkain ng mga bata araw-araw. Kung nag-aaral ang mga bata, magkano ba ang reasonable na tuition fee ng mga bata? Kung magkano ba ang allowance ng mga bata kung sila nag-aaral araw-araw. So, ifa-factor in po natin lahat ito. Food cost, clothing cost, school allowance, matriculation, and fees. If we add all of this together, i-divide by 2 po natin lahat yan. At yan po ay paghahatian ng nanay at tatay. Ngayon, it does not stop there. Of course, yung amount ng sustento would still be dependent on the financial capacity of both parents, no. So, halimbawa, no, ang trabaho ng tatay ay minimum wage lang naman. Hindi natin pwedeng persahin yung tatay na magbigay ng sustento amounting to 20,000 per month kung ang sinasahod lang naman ng tatay ay minimum wage o nasa 10,000 per month. So, nakadepende pa rin ito sa circumstances ng both parents, no? So, for example, ang both parents ay hindi naman sila mayaman. They are earning nasa 20,000 per month ang kanilang earnings. Hindi naman natin pwedeng pwersahin for them to give more than that at pag-utangin natin sila, no? Of course, we have to stick within the reasonable amount. So, ang sustento po ay nakabase, once again, sa daily needs ng mga anak, economy, food, no, clothing, housing, household. So, hindi po tayo pwedeng basta-basta humugot sa ulap ng amount at yun ang sasabihin nating sustento. So, nakabase pa rin ito sa iba-ibang mga circumstances surrounding the family, no, at financial capacity ng both parents. I hope we answered your question on paano po ba mag-enforce ng sustento. Sa korte lang ba pwedeng mag-enforce ng sustento? Of course, hindi po. Pwede po tayong tumakbo kay barangay captain at si kapitan po ang mag-i-initiate ng usapin through the intervention, of course, pa rin ng ating local social welfare and development office. And in all of these problems na banggit natin, ang magiging katuwang at kaagapay po ninyo ay ang inyong local social welfare and development office. At ayan, isa na namang makabuluhang talakayan ang ating natapos ngayong umaga. We discussed key provisions of RA 9262 and the Expanded Solo Parents Welfare Act. At sa susunod na Thursday, the same time, 8 a.m., we will discuss again provisions of salient laws that cover the rights and welfare of women and their children and other social protection laws and other issues that surround social protection in our community, in our society. If you have questions, continue to send them to us through the comment section or through our direct messages, and we will try to go over them in our next episode. So thank you for staying with us. Again, this is your attorney Brenden Kim Quintos, who na laging ready and always willing to answer your legal questions here online and of course in person. You just message me on Facebook and we can always set an appointment to discuss your legal issues and problems. So thank you very much for staying with us, and we hope to see you in our next episode here on Taraki TV.